Well, good afternoon. And I did a video yesterday with how I was going to heat this glass up and fuse it together. And I wasn't going to fire this one, but I decided to go ahead and fire it. So they came out of the kiln pretty well. And so in my this part of this video, then what I'll do now is explain to you how I turn this thing into a bowl. And I think I mentioned for people there was more interest in this than I thought there would be. So that's the reason I'm doing this video. But I had yesterday, if you look at yesterday's video on this particular little project, I had a piece of clear glass that I had painted that wheat on. And then under it was this ivory colored glass or cream colored glass. And I heated this to 1435 degrees. And because I didn't want to lose this wheat, if I get up a whole lot higher than that, the wheat kind of looks out of focus. It melts it gets a little bit too hot. So this worked out just about right. And because I had this upper piece of glass, the clear glass, just a little bit larger than the cream glass, when these two glasses get hot and they fuse together, then that means that you'll get this edge to curl over, a nice round edge. And I'm trying to make a bowl here, so that's important. So people that fuse know all this stuff already, but it's just a point of information. And then what'll happen now is I'll go back in the kiln overnight, and there's our mold again. And like I said yesterday, there's the holes in the bottom of it. And the reason those holes are there we go. When this thing gets really hot, and we'll heat this to 1230 degrees. And what that'll do is slump, or this glass will become a liquid state. Not real wet, of course, but a liquid state, soft state, and it'll assume the shape of that mold. And so those holes in the bottom of the mold are when this thing sinks down into the mold far enough, if you didn't allow that air to escape, you'd have a bubble in the center of this bowl. So this should make a nice looking bowl. And that's the maximum size that I can make a bowl on this particular mold. I can make them a little smaller, but this is the size that comes out the longest distance across here. I think it's 11 3/4 inches. And this is going to be a short video. Somebody asked me about cutting this circle. There are circle cutters. I have two. I've got one that's a real old one that I used to use. It's not very good. And then I'll show you the latest thing I have out, which is a really super tool. But this is what I originally started with a long time ago. And you have to hold this end down with one hand as you go around. Let's get this out of the way. Go around your piece of glass. We could shorten that up. Maybe it'd be... And there's a little scale on the side of it to give you the diameter of the finished product. Anyway, so you go around. You got to hold that thing down so it doesn't move around. You got to go around the glass to get that circle cut. And of course, you have to know what you're doing to some extent, because you have to break the glass off around the outside. And this has a little wheel that you can replace. This thing is an antique. It's pretty old. I don't know. I've had it a long time. And it would work, but, you know, it's not the greatest. And so then I got turned on to these Silberschnitt German tools. And this was the first one I bought. It was a glass cutter. And these things are just surgical instruments. They're really good. If you know how to operate a glass cutter, this will change your life. This thing is a really fabulous glass cutter. So they make great tools. So they also, Silberschnitt makes, these are German, right? They make a circle cutter. This thing will cut a 24-inch piece. This kiln will only handle a 22. 24-inch circle piece of glass is a large piece of glass. I don't need anything that size. Most everything I do is 11 or 12 inches or less. And this is going to be, this bit of information here is going to be for just a very few people, because this Silberschnitt cutter, they make two models. They both really look alike if you start looking at them. What makes them cool is that you can snap this down and it'll lock down. And now you don't have to hold this thing or your hand. You don't have to worry about it moving on you. And it's really a good suction right there. Then you can flip it up and shut it off. But what makes this one special, and this one's considerably more expensive than the other one that looks just about like it. But let me break that loose. The less expensive one, and I'll talk about the price of them. This is just for 2 or 3, 4 people that might want to get one of these. There's a little cartridge in the less expensive circle cutter, and you move it. I've never had one, but you dial when the blade gets dull or whatever. You dial to the next blade. If you take care of these and put a little bit of, I use kerosene, but a little bit of light oil on that wheel every time you use it, then they'll last forever. But anyway, this one is real. This is the Pro model, and see that little wheel in there, the little carriage where the wheel is pivoting around. Well, what that does for you, I hope I can do this somewhat with one hand, but this ball, you put that in your hand. See, that's real easy to operate, and you just start your cut right there. Now you've got that little carriage and that wheel, and then just spin it around, and you don't have to use but one hand, and it really makes an incredible cut. Now, I think the wholesale price for this thing was $122. If you look on eBay or Etsy or anybody that sells this silver Schnitt cutter, you can really get, you won't really know which one is which, but you have to look. And if it's a $60 or $70 one, then it's it's not as good as this one. I'm trying to fumble around and say it's not as good as this one. This one's going to be well over $100 no matter where you get it. And this is the one, if you're going to buy one, just buy one. And this thing here is the bomb. It works. It's the best circle cutter I've ever seen. So anyway, and I can cut, if I mark out a good circle with a compass or something, I can cut that by hand, because I'm a pretty steady cutter, so I can go around there and cut it by hand. But this is so much easier and incredibly accurate. So when you're going to go to this much trouble to cut a piece of glass, and you need it to be exact, and I needed this piece just a little bit larger than the piece underneath it, because when they fused, we want to have that rollover of this upper piece. Then if you're going to go to that much trouble, and this glass is expensive anymore, and then you're going to paint and all this other stuff, then there would be no point to cut corners on the tools. So really, there's no point to cut corners on any of this stuff, because it'll just affect the end product. So if you spend enough time to learn how to do this with any level of skill, don't cut corners, because it'll affect the work. You want the best possible materials to go along with your best efforts. Anyway, that's my soapbox for today. And now this thing, I started not to put this in since we had to. I already had this painted, since we had to take this to 1335, or is it 14? 14, I'm sorry. We had to take this to 1435 degrees because I had to fuse that. And I had painted on this clear, so I'm going to fuse the clear to this other piece. And I didn't want to have to do another firing on this thing, so I went ahead and fired it to 1385. Here I go again, 1435. I fired it to 1435, both of these the same. 1385 is stuck in my head because normally I fire these at 1385 and I don't get this disfigurement on the corner. Now what'll happen is I'll just come back and grind that corner and make it square. But when you heat this single piece of glass up that hot, then the corners tend to get misshapen because the glass is melted further than it normally melts. So not a big deal. I'll grind them off. Take me 5 minutes to fix it. But that kept me from having to do two firings, a separate firing. 1385 on this one and 1435 on this one. If I had just wanted that wheat to be on that single piece of clear, I could have fired it to 1385. But because we wanted to fuse it, bring the two pieces or melt the two pieces of glass together, that's why we went to 1435. Well, that's enough of that. Anyway, that's about all I have. I wanted to talk to you about the tools. Every now and then I'll bring up in some of these videos something about tools and what, at least my opinion, what's a good tool to use. And I've gone on and on about this Hakko soldering iron. But as I, test these pieces, man, I do a lot of work in here. So if something is going to improve the quality of the work or help me to get the work done a little easier, then that's what we're going to do. But we never sacrifice ease for quality. Quality is going to be the first thing. The best possible work you can possibly produce should be number one. And then if you can figure out a way to get that done easier, then what's the problem? That's a win. So anyway, I appreciate it. If you have any questions, be sure and ask me. We'll just keep going. I'm going to slump this thing, clean this up, and I'll probably go right to trying to figure out what kind of colored glass we're going to put around this thing. We'll work on that today. And this piece is, somebody wanted to buy this yesterday. This was already sold. I think after I finished it, I had it about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours before somebody bought it. So this one is sold. And man, that is a cool little piece. Anyway, it'll look good when I get through with it. I'm going to do something real special to it with the, and I'll talk about that when I do it. But I'm changing up the materials that go in this outside trim. I used to use 1/2 inch zinc, and I sprung for, and man, it's spring for. I bought a case of 1/2 inch U-shaped copper. So I'm going to do some things with the patina on this copper that go around this thing. And this will be the first time I've ever used copper came. So this should be pretty interesting on this piece. This should make this piece really something special because I'll patina that copper that's going to go around it into this verdigris antique green. It should look really good. All right. Anyway, that's it. I'll watch for your questions. Thanks. Bye.